Hello, and thank you very much for inviting me to be here today to talk about alternatives to ash. We, as a company, J. Frank Schmidt and Son, has been working on coming up with alternatives of ash for since 2002, when our customers in Michigan were blindsided by this nasty little insect, and it's been rolling ever since. So our company has lived with emerald ash borer for, from a distance for 20 years. The first few years, it cost us about $6 million in sales, just right off the bat. And our customers, who had their fields full of beautiful ash trees, as it progressed across the country, each state, we kind of lived through the sorrow of those customers who lost their ashes. Back in the day, we grew about 18 cultivars of ash, and it was at least a quarter of our business, which was part of the problem. We didn't learn from the loss of elms to Dutch elm disease. We learned a little, but we weren't paying that much attention collectively. But this is a good knock in the head, and I really think that the emerald ash borer arrival 20 years ago has contributed a lot to our company's efforts to diversify our product line, which I'll talk about a little more. This, by the way, is our farm in Milton Freewater. Those are the Blue Mountains behind us, about 400 acres where we grow some of the more heat and drought tolerant trees. So we've been hit with a double whammy with emerald ash borer coming here and climate change arriving too. And it's also an opportunity for us to plan and plant for an ashless future and for a hotter, drier climate of exchanges, extremes, and it's going to be hotter and drier, and it's also going to be cooler and wetter, which we sure experienced that this spring with our wet spring. So do we replace ash with trees from the arid Southwest and California? Well, not so fast. Yes and no. We're still going to have cold winters and desiccating winds. And having grown up in Troutdale, Columbia River Gorge, I know how those winds desiccate. And we're going to have snow and ice storm events. We've had snow in April that really and ice in the wintertime that are really devastating to all sorts of varieties of trees. So we need to work on storm resilience as well. So we need to choose trees that can handle soil extremes as well as weather extremes. It's going to be too dry and too wet. It kind of sounds like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Too hot, too cold. So what do we do about it? Well, the experts tell us plant a broad mix of genera, species, and cultivars. This is the little shot I took. I think it was during a Friends of Trees board meeting, maybe, from brewery blocks, maybe it seems like. Anyway, showing our, kind of a lot of Norway maples and ash and all sorts of different things. But many of these, much of the green that you see here is probably going to need to be replaced in the next 20, 30 years. So what have we been doing about it as growers? Well, we've been ramping up our diversity. And trying to grow to meet the demands for species diversity. And just to prepare for this, I dug through the archives and found a 1982 catalog for J. Frank Schmidt and Son. And boy, was it an education for me. I've only been around there since '94. By the way, Schmidt's started growing trees in 1946, right in Troutdale, Fairview area. So, and the family is third generation and really devoted to continuing and diversifying. So what in 92 or 82, we grew 19 genera, and that includes 5 that are no longer offered. One of those being Russian olive and some tall hedge, some real interesting rhamnus, some real interesting trees that we don't offer anymore. And we had 109 species and cultivars. Well, fast forward, 20, 30 years forward, this is hot off the press, by the way. We got them in yesterday. This year, we tallied it up, and 2023, we're up to 64 genera and 450 species and cultivars. So I was surprised that the number was that high. I knew we grew. So, folks who think we only grow maples and crabapples and birch and ash, that was pretty much the story in 1982. Those were our big items. We had 3 oak species, no elms, no ginkgos. And so it's really changed a lot. And so we're doing the best we can. Trouble is, the hard part is that those first, the ones that we listed are the ones that are easy. So the hard ones are the ones that are the more diverse, so they'd be more available in the marketplace. So what do we plant? So today you have a lot more choices. Carpinus betulus is a great, probably underrated tree for its drought and heat tolerance. This one is our Emerald Avenue, which, of course, Maclura from Oklahoma. The Osage Orange, Australia, is an fairly unusual tree that has really great heat and drought tolerance as well. So I'll just run through this really quick. Emerald Avenue, it's of Mediterranean origin. A lot of people don't know, think of it as a Northern European or a European cultivar or species, but it runs all the way down. Its range runs all the way down into Turkey and Italy, southern Italy, over into the Stan countries, Turkmenistan. And this one is from that southern provenance, and it's just going gangbusters as far as being a dry country tree. Osage Orange, Western Oklahoma, pretty hot, pretty dry, pretty alkaline, and it's doing real well. Matt, I kind of pioneered planting that with BES, and I've been keeping an eye on some of the trees that are doing really well in the city. Autumn Treasure is our cultivar of hop hornbeam that loses its leaves all at once. So oaks, elms, zelkova. The oaks are bur oak and the southern oaks. We at this point are not growing any of the evergreen oaks because of the weather extremes and just too risky right now as a crop, but we're sure looking at them. Elms, this is summer elixir elm. You arborists will love to know the story on this one, is that Jim Barberinus was given some seedlings by George Ware, and he's been looking at it for about 30 years, and he decided, this is a pretty good tree, so he brought it to us for introduction. So, and Zelkova, great family of trees. Got to tell you a little story of a resilient red maple. If you were here at this conference in 2013, along with Andy and with a couple of Friends of Trees staffers and City of Seattle folks, I pulled a couple of trees out of the cooler, including that big red point maple. And we were joking right there at the little thing outside the happy hour. I said, this tree it just hasn't gotten the memo. It doesn't know it yet that it's dead, because it was June, threw it in the back of the pickup, drove down here, sat out all day, threw it in the pickup, took it home. A couple days later, the buds still look pretty good. Soaked it in a wheelbarrow full of water for a few days, and then Neil stuck it out on a drip line in our little Treeforia nursery, and 10 years later, the day before last, the property we were growing it on was sold, tree's still there, and look how it's grown. So the bare root tree on the right of the picture, that's the red point maple that 10 years later, that was right here in this room. So it wasn't giving it up. It wasn't ready to die. Good. There are some red maples that are not drought tolerant, like they're represented to be. So that's the power of cultivars, is that we're selecting for heat and drought tolerance. Oops, I'm out of time. Okay, climate forward. Oh, got to show you this. We've actually got a tree form. Well, we can't go back. Tree form heptacodium. So that's the kind of things we're doing. We're trying to find trees that'll work in heat, drought, and that won't get chewed up by emerald ash borers. So planning for an ashless future, talk to us. What could you do? Talk to us, visit nurseries, know what's available from propagation nurseries like ourselves. A lot of good ones out there besides us. Don't expect street-ready trees of desirable sizes and species to be available off the rack. Plan ahead. Don't plant 150-year trees in 30-year holes and expect them to be long-lived. You got to plan ahead. Contract. It's a whole new world for us too. So communication is going to be key for this great demand that is greatly going to outstrip the supply just nationally. So plan, like I'm talking plan 7 years ahead, and increase your buying power by teaming up with others. So I think that's going to be a great new frontier. Thank you.
Thank you.
We grow quite a lot of beech. One that I think is underused is the fernleaf beech. It's a little smaller tree and good structure. And if you go to the beech grove at Hoyt Arboretum, it's very impressive.